Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. How y'all doing today? Let me turn this mic down to my ears. Yeah, I don't want to hear me twice. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Let me make sure I got all my notes ready and together for tonight's discussion. Yes. Well, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of DaAfrican Speaks. Of course, right now we are focusing on the topic rise of the African. Um, I like you to be patient with me because and I'm gonna be patient with you because this is a new day, a new time. This is the only second week in the new day and time, and so for those who are able to keep up, that means you be listening, and I appreciate you. And I'm building and building and building with everything that I'm doing. We still locking down the social media push so that it is sent out over and over and over again throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the time until we get accustomed to all these new classes, all these new programs, and all these new processes that I'm doing. And so we want to make sure that it gets out. So as the season continues to move on and the movement continues to move on, we're going to keep on making sure that we are getting better and better with the social media marketing. But along with the social media marketing, we got to make sure that I create the content, and that's important. So, and I'm creating content more than just for one day. So I'm asking you, please just be patient with me, and we're gonna work it all out. And I know everybody's like, wait a minute. Some people who haven't seen it were like, wait a minute, he's on Tuesday night. Yes, we're moving Monday to Tuesday. We got Wednesday. We locking down something for Thursday, and then Saturday and Sunday. So I'm trying to give myself some breaks so that we could get this rolling. Um, this is a great season. It's a global season. This in terms of energy that we're in right now. For those who there's a lot for us to tap into. There's a lot for us to tap into in these next few months. And those are who are we got. Okay, now we have Advent season, right? We have Hanukkah. We have Christmas. We have Kwanzaa. We have the New Year. You know what I mean? But we're gonna start in this next 30 days. We have Advent, Hanukkah, Christmas. And then we got Kwanzaa after that, New Year's, and then we roll into Black History, Lent. After Lent, it's Easter, and after Easter, it's the Pentecost season. So we got a lot of those, and a lot of people are sitting there saying, well, you know what, I'm deep, deep African, and I don't believe in Christianity. So again, we're not talking about for those who are not tied to a religion that has a name and an actual system, or a written system. Let's, because we're not disrespecting anything here. We're African. And so we always have to remember that spirituality comes from us. Spirituality, we gave spirituality to the world. Now, they had to use what we created against us. Yes, organized religion was a tool that was used to oppress and suppress the spirit and the mind. However, as Africans, we know that since we are the creators of all things, and if we function from a liberated point of view, we can rewrite our narrative. And so, for some of us who are in a revolutionary Christian experience, we rewrote the whole thing. Why? Because when you're looking at faith and spirituality through an African eye, you can see the footprint of European meddling. And if not, then of course, yeah, a lot of y'all are still embracing a slave master's theology. And that part we're going to talk about. But we have to always remember that we are co creators. We are co creators with the Most High. He gives us the ability and wisdom to do things. And so if we have a group or a body of individuals giving praise and prayer and sending out love, that is something that we can utilize and tap into. We can call our ancestors to. We can call our families to. That doesn't mean you celebrate something that is pagan, because we don't do the pagan faith. We just don't. As Christians, we know what's pagan and what's not. And so, and then as African centered, We know Christians, we know how to rewrite the whole thing. And so, we have a whole different narrative than everybody else do. And I would love to speak to you about that one day. Well, join us on Equivalent Inspirational Sunday. Join us at the Pan African Orthodox Christian Church Sunday service. You might get some of that. You might get some of that. Now, before we go into our topic, I will always like to say and add that if you are watching us on Facebook, please like, comment, share. This is how we reach each other. This is how we talk to each other. This is how we educate each other. This is how we interact with each other. This is how we grow. That's which is deeply, deeply important. This is what we call our community outreach. This is how we do it. And if you are watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button and hit the bell. So regardless what is being sent out, you're always, always, always notified on what is being done. Now, I don't know about you, but if you haven't seen it, I was busy all last week. Last week, I had sat down and I said, I'm going to make sure that all the programs that are supposed to be out this season are out this season. And so it was out this season. So I'm not going to talk about the rise of the African, and I'm not going to talk about liberation, and you're not going to see my efforts to build program, to share wisdom on a regular basis. And I'm not asking, I'm not saying, hey, pay me for my classes. You have a whole lot of that going on. Now, of course, when I will get into the technical part of training, and that's coming. So many different other classes and programs are being there. So, but we're gonna make sure that please, be on the lookout for the Garvey games. Be on the lookout on Saturdays, the African history and African spirituality class. Sundays, let's do Kibalan Inspirational Sunday, and then I'm picking Thursday for AfriStream. No, I can't use Thursday. Might have to be Wednesday. I got a class. I have my African spirituality class on Thursday. So it's going to be Wednesday or Friday, but I said it to be announced because it depends on how I get the data. So everything is about research, research, research. My day is never simple. I'm always making sure that I'm trying to get you the information that's out there, especially with AfriStream. And so there's going to be a lot of interaction with each one. In the African Speaks, I'm going to share information that I've learned from African history class to African spirituality class, AfriStream, which is local news, and then the inspiration for our youth, or the focus point of our youth, of what we're trying to build into, where we get in Kibalan Sunday, and then you may or may not, yes, no, you will hear about the Garvey games coming soon here in the African Speaks, which is important, and we want to make sure we do that. Now, tonight's well, before I go, let me also let you know that when we get this right, let me cut over, cut. There we go. It's not letting me cut over. Why is it not letting me cut over to this? Okay. If you get a chance, please go out to the World of Akibaland website. For some reason, it's not allowing me to cut over to the website. And that's okay. We know that it's there. worldofakibaland.org. worldofakibaland.org. When you get a chance, look us up. If you moved, hit the donate button and send some donations as we continue to build programming that moves us to a greater Pan-African experience. Now, wait. Looks like everything is messing up. What's happening here? Let's see what's going on. We having some technical difficulties for the first time. Yes. Okay. We're gonna have to teach this without the tech with the technical difficulties, because I'm not quite sure what's going on. But oh, wait. There we go. I figured it out. Figured it out. There we go. Technology is not always easy. It's not always easy. And then me trying to teach or learn the process of the God in me, meaning be able to do these things on a high level with high definition images and a lot of layers going on. It's yeah, it's a simple way to do it, then it's also a harder way to do it. And I'm trying to bring you the best as I possibly can. Now, with this, we've been focusing on the rise of the African. And when we talk about the rise of the African, when I came up with the concept and how I'm going to push this up until Pentecost Sunday, I sat down and said, it's time for us to make a move towards a social media Pan African movement. A social media Pan African movement. I'm looking to have 5,000. A lot of people say, oh, you hear a lot of, we need more youth. What we need is numbers. What we need is numbers. We need true warriors. The rise of the African. There we go. True warriors who believe in the Pan African experience, meaning that we are a people, a border without border. We are a melanated nation without border, meaning that we are global. And you give me 5,000 people, I can show you a brother who will walk in from community after community after community, changing lives. You give me 5,000 kids in one location, I will create the classes. I already have the African history curriculum and the other. I have the technical curriculum, and we also have a homeschool curriculum. And I'm not pushing that right now. I'm not pushing that right now, but we had that too, right? We've been doing this for 68 years. I'm just a small piece to a larger puzzle. And I'm trying to, as my efforts go, as being the African who speaks in this environment, I'm just one of many. And so I'm trying to bring the numbers of who we are and whose we are with the mission of what we're called to do. So you give me 5,000 people, one in one platform. Woo! That's exactly what we're talking. Now, previously, we've been talking about when it comes to rise of the African, a social media Pan African movement. Previously, we talked about the COVID strategy. I'm paraphrasing so I don't have to go through the whole genre. And I've been talking about the COVID strategy since COVID started. And we came down with the COVID strategy is how we using the technology that we have today. How does that play a part in the Pan African experience? Are we focused on the and a lot of people have taken the COVID and they've looked at the illnesses, they looked at the deaths, everything that is put, the weight that is put upon us. And I hear very few people talking about the spirit of God in this experience, knowing that things don't last always and things change. And as long as we stay true to what God has called us to do and be, we could beat this experience the way we've beat tons of tragedies in our lives as an African people. You think COVID is tough? Try 400 years of slavery. We only been here two. Try having to live through that process of operant conditioning and physical abuse. And we only been going through COVID too, and you can't stay in the house. Of course, with our community, within our community, we talk about it. We try to stay connected using technology. So now it's not time for me to also reach outside our community, which is that Pan African media. This is that movement, and so I'm going after that. Now, I've said before is God has given us more than anything else during COVID. He's given us more time. Mm. Uh, Leadership in my community said you're gonna know a great people, a focused people who comes out greater than they went in when it comes to COVID. Right now, I've seen some, and I'll mention his name, Bishop Aldi's, killing it in terms of coming out better than what he was when he went in. Some people are utilizing that. Now, if you did not see the African spirituality class on Saturday that was taught, we stated that there are four sacred categories in African spirituality. And so in this corona piece, in this particular piece, what I want to talk about is what we call the Hantu. Now, that is because there is everything about African spirituality, it permeates an entire people's existence. There is nothing that is not sacred. And so the Hantu is the definition, or it defines space and time. And that word Hantu, it means space and time. How sacred do you see your space that you live in, the moment that you're in? How sacred is your season that you're in? And then also the time. The time. The season and the time coincide sometimes. You feel me? And so, and a lot of times in African spirituality, they chart things by the way the earth moves, by the way the sun rises and the sun sets, by the way the harvest grows, changes. For us, space and time, what are you doing with your time? And that's talking about accountability. Now, I know in my community, accountability is heavy. When we were moving up to leadership and we were going through our processes, you know what I mean, and earning our places to travel the country and build a kingdom. With kingdom building God's black nation. Period. Building a black nation. That's what it is. No more, no less. Building a black nation, and we talk about it. And so the thing is about accountability. And so we've been wanting our yesterday back. I don't know how many complaints, I hear or go, I can't wait till things get back to normal. What do you mean normal? This is a new time, it's new space and time. So we have to look at where we are and function from where we are rather than wanting our yesterday. When was the last time you had your yesterday meet you in your present? Now, we're not talking about what other people bring you, make you try to live your past. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about you. When time you woke up and went to bed on Monday and woke up, it was Monday. The only time that happens if you was in a coma and you was in a coma for a week or 3 months and you went in a coma on Monday and woke up and it was Monday. But that other Monday that was gone ain't that same. You still got to play catch up now. You got to walk out that hospital and walk into the world and be like, yo, what did I miss? So we're dealing with the Hantu. How are you spending your time? Your accountability. And that's what we say. And this is why in this moment where everybody's home, this is our time. Us to create a sacred experience in our in reference to our Hantu. And so if you missed the African spirituality class, yeah, you missed the breakdown of the Hantu. And so you get it now. But yeah, we're going to interwove all these classes and all these lessons to get a complete picture of what it means for the African to rise on multiple levels. And so we want to make sure that we stay that. But there has never been a scenario or a situation where our yesterday met up with us. So we have to get used to a new paradigm. Woo! They said a whole new order, world order, a system order is changing, where we are focused on, and this is a good about the better thing about COVID. We are learning that of course, those who speak as though their bodies are true temple. It's the way you eat. It's the way you sleep, how you exercise. It's everything. It's the what you read. It's how you meditate and pray. And then you've been given more time. And if we come out of COVID and things, or our ability to roam gets better, interact, be in small, closed places with big crowds. If we go back to that experience in the new time that's coming, or the new time that is already here, who are we when it's over? Did we use the technology that we're in for the sake of just pure entertainment and learn nothing new? I learned all of this. I was live streaming. I was live streaming before COVID. And I was looking nice before COVID. But it wasn't this. Why? because my Hantu is sacred. My space and my time is sacred. I don't know how many times I get beef with people because they like, yo, bro, you got no time. No, I do. And I'm using it wisely. I'm becoming who God called me to be, even in this space. I'm making sure that my diet is as perfect as it can to ward off whatever illnesses that are there. Now, we've had conversations on African Speaks about COVID, and we got the new variant coming out, and it's already hit England, and they're talking about coming here. I'm going to do my research on that, and will have the African rise on that when we speak about nutrition. Woo! I'm going to get some people up in here. Just to let y'all know, after the African history class and I spoke to the community, they said one of the things that I'm missing in this journey are the elders. Yes, the elders said that they have the time to spare to give a wise word for this new journey in this new era. And they are willing to learn technology. Yes. And so I told them, I said, well, if y'all put it together through the community, I'll teach it. I got no problem with that. Why? Because I'm looking for this experience. A social media now, even with my community, we are missing. We are not on point with utilizing technology to reach the masses. We're not there yet. They're learning as a whole, and it takes a process. You feel me? And so they was said, if you want to run fast, you run by yourself. But if you want to run a long time, you run together. Yeah. So I'm waiting for them to catch up. I'm still running fast though. And so we got to get our time together, and we want to make sure that's how we utilizing technology. Now, last week, uh, we discussed the concept of God's spirit, that energy that's in a people who know who they are in God, despite their circumstances. You can see it in the eyes when the fire of God, of the Most High, the passion bubbles up to conquer whatever enemy they're facing. Not falling into a woe, but they're switching over. Why? Because an African is a free being. It's not a location for us no more. It's a being that birthed humanity. Woo! That was called by God to give birth to all humanity. And that's something that we have to look at. I'll talk about that a little later. But what I want to do is play the clip from last week so that we can catch up to where we are for those who missed it. Right? For those who missed it. Let's see if I can get this. And I skipped over some things. Let's. Tokyo men muta le kokolungo tamandi alikana baramandi wayo ulu wayo bukunti yo nata follow sunkuto le kama wayo ulu wayo amana follow baria banalade wayo ulu wayo
Bring the girl to me! Mr. Mac!
Wato sito lewayo, nikutio ye bonda yeli, abe fara, patensu kuto malakotek. Alamagantala! Olunta!
All right. Let me turn my headset down. Now, last week we broke this down. And I'm not going to break it down and we're not going to go through it and I'm not going to go through every word. We need Africans who are not afraid to take over a slave ship and lead us back to Africa. And that came from Mafundi Olabayo Abanesa Mandela. This is the woman who taught me how to teach black youth. She said it was something special in me when she saw me. Man, I was in my early 20s, and she said there's something in this boy's spirit where he has a relationship with black kids, and they helped me cultivate it. And yeah, you put me in a room full of children, and I'm gonna show you a bunch of kids who love to learn. I got this. Even now, I got this, right? And so, what I want to talk about also is the things in that where they utilize what they had through the whole struggle. Through the whole struggle of liberation, they utilized what they knew and what they had. And even now, looking at the tools that we have to use towards our liberation. And so we said our tools today, we did say it was our time. And so in that, we talked about how we are in the middle of the perfect storm: timing, technology, and leadership. And I'm going to always get this: timing, technology, and leadership has put together what we have in reference to the perfect storm, right? And in that perfect storm, our use of technology, right, is can be used as guerrilla warfare. We're in plain sight. We're everywhere. We're everywhere around the globe. And so now we have a technology that allows us to communicate everywhere around the globe. And so why not begin to like, comment, share, learn, create the financial resources, vet out a community that needs fixing. We got a youth program in Detroit that needs to be revitalized. Give me 5,000 people and everybody donating what they can, and I'm gonna show you a brother who go to Detroit and revitalize a youth program. Then those 5,000 people bring us 10,000 people, and then we find some place in Florida that we vet and said this is a program based off of liberation of black people, teaching self-determination to our youth. Why? Because we're going to need a generation that is raised on self-determination, period. Of course, our youth programs, World of Akibaland, that's all we teach, along with academics. It's what we teach. Now, if you what was that? I think that was African spirituality class where we said that you when you're teaching black youth, I'm thinking it's African spirituality class because I taught so many classes this week, and so with so much information crossing over, and I believe it was the African spirituality class where we stated that if you're learning something, it should one teach you when you're teaching a child, it should teach a child how to be able to be functional in in this racist society in which we live, yet teach them how to build their own. They got to be able to function in it, come out of it with resources, and build their own. That's guerrilla warfare. That's how we should be utilizing technology, and how we should be utilizing the resources that we got. That's guerrilla warfare. Please tune in to African history, African spirituality, and African history class, as well as Akiba Land Inspirational Sundays. Great conversations that you could have with your kids afterwards. And then African Speaks and AfriStream, because that's exactly what we build. And what we want to talk about today in that is what was, if wow, revelation. Look at the eyes of the brother that you see. Look in his eyes. And that is a warrior. He's in his mask, and it's not just what you see, it's the spirit that governs him. Because that's what we're going to talk about tonight. What does it look like when you are engulfed in God's spirit as a people? Because on that ship, You could see it in their eyes, and they knew that there's only one common goal, which is be to be defined by the Creator and the Creator alone. And so, in this predicament that we're in, we have one common goal, and that's to be a people, self-determined. We belong in no chains, physical, psychological, mental, or emotional. So, what does it look like? Other than a slave revolt. And so there have been moments in time, and there are continued moments in time where we have those scenarios. And the first one we're going to talk about is the UNIA. What? 1920s. The 1920s. There is not a revolutionary black leader or someone out of the history who was not influenced by Marcus Garvey. Even Bob Marley songs was written off of Garvey's teachings. Garvey governed by God out of the city of Jamaica, creating the UNIA. 6 million people around the globe, because he saw us as a people and was able to pull us together as a people. That's when you know you are in God's spirit as a people. And so you want to be able to sit down and take a look, inventory, of who we are and where we are, or what you're doing, and ask yourself, am I being governed by the Spirit of God as a people? Am I participating in that? And if you don't know, I usually ask people, are you aware of Marcus Garvey? And when they say no, I'm like, how are you not? When this was the first experience outside of slavery, the largest experience in the history of the black race, of us being unified as a people. And I'm gonna do that one day. I'm gonna pick a Saturday, a late Saturday. We might do two streams where I give the, and that might be in Black history, African history class. Well, it's African history. Yeah, it's African history, African history, or Black history. We'll pick a Sunday, and we'll do another day where we do the journeys of the American African, or the African American. And I always say we have to be more African in our American experience. Right now, we're American Africans. We're American Africans if you don't value your Hantu, your space and time. That's one aspect. And you want to know the other three aspects? See me on Saturday at African history class, and I'll reiterate it before we start on a new lesson. Okay, because we always want to play catch up. But then you want to take a look at the Nation of Islam. Wow. Nation of Islam. Another, what it looks like when a people are embodied in God's spirit. Because they say you're not just supposed to say all black, everything, build a business, and there is no program. How do you build a business and there's no program for liberation? It's just black businesses. Okay, so where is this economics going? They say they've always wanted black people to hold their finances from the country, to sway the country, or to show us our buying power. Okay, that's good. But if our purchasing power is not going to a program that liberates, what's the purpose? The Nation of Islam said, by all means necessary. We're supposed to be self-defined. You got to take a look at it. That's what it looks like when a people is functioning from God's spirit. Woo! Do y'all remember those days, or do y'all teach your kids about those days? You can't raise revolutionary kids without them knowing this history. You can't raise them and say, I want you to be a good, be a good employee, good a great job, good a great education. Yes, and make money. For what? Pay taxes. I want you to do all of that and then use the resources to create a program so that black people can be liberated. The UNIA is not around anymore. Nation of Islam still is, and that's what their focus is. Because it's not going to be in one lifetime. It's a multitude of lifetimes that it's going to take for us to create our own, and that's important. We also can take a look at, hey, the Shrines of the Black Madonna, the Pan African Orthodox Christian Church, the only program that has existed as, if not longer than the Nation of Islam. You feel me? That the only Christian, and it's been said that um what is it? Muhammad came over to Elijah came to Jemoja Bebe Ajamin and asked him did he want to become a Muslim, and Jemoja Bebe Ajamin said no, because he saw what he was doing and how he was doing it. Said, yeah, this is Islam. And Jemo Bebe Ajamin can tell you, no, this is not Islam. That's African. We're Christians, but we're African. We can claim anything. Don't forget, we brought spirituality to the planet. So as long as we're looking at it through God's eyes, we can take out everything that the European put in, and we can see it. Because if it does not, in Christianity, in our interpretation of in Christianity, we have a phrase: there's nothing more sacred than the liberation of black people. If it doesn't work for the liberation of black people, then it's evil. Period. 68 years, the largest black-owned farm in the United States. And we're working on being able to feed black people all across the globe. Multiple farm projects we still developing. Again, those are the tools we have, which is agriculture. And so now we're going to how to connect technology and the farm project. How do we do that? We have other churches saying, how did y'all do this? Well, our question is, if you were in the spirit of God, how do you not? Because there's nothing more sacred than the liberation of black people. That's heaven. Not what we being taught. Heaven is on earth. The kingdom of God is, you don't look at it as over here or over there. You're not trying to get that, oh, I need to go make sure when I die, I find glory. No, glory is here first. What happens when we cross over is what happens when we cross over. But what is the life you live now? How you going to go to your creator and tell your creator, I live my entire life as a slave or as somebody who was oppressed and did nothing to change it? You're not in God's spirit. No. That's why we're American Africans. American Africans. This is not the rise of the American Africans, the rise of the African in you. So you can truly claim African American. I don't know what they call the African people in Europe. African Europes? I don't know. I'll take a look at that. But we have to find a way to become the more of the African in us to make those changes. And the way you begin to define it is, does this lead me toward the liberation of black people? If it's a no, then it's not divine. If it's a yes, then it's divine. Don't know what book you've been reading, because that's all Bible. It's all Bible when you turn on God's eye. What? Now, in the present day, because we've seen examples of people working in God's spirit in the past. We've seen it. And they don't want you to focus on and you realize who's not here and what's not here. Right? Because there have been certain movements that we've had that has been beneficial to us, but they didn't lead us to liberation. They led us to assimilation. And we got even more lost. And that's why it's harder for us. Now, what does it look like? If you see the one next to it over there, not there, but yeah, that one. That one right there. Barbados walks out of the Commonwealth, removes the Queen as sovereign. You have now countries who are saying we are now making a decision to be completely self-defined by God's eye. We're walking in God's spirit, and we no longer need your your colonization. We don't want to be associated with the colonizer, the colonizer. Let me get me some water in my big cup. Got it from my daughter. This is her college survival mug. I told her daddy needs that. We no longer want to be affiliated with the colonizers. And now there's another thing that's coming, and make sure y'all connect with this on AfriStream. Digital colonization is coming. I got a whole thing coming like that about digital colonization. Ooh. So you don't realize when I tell you we need to use these tools for the liberation and freedom of who we are. But the more and more we don't, we're slipping into the hands of a system who needs a working force. Or really, when they're done with the working force, because Corona is showing the country how to exist without a working force. And so what do you do when you don't have a working force? You have to be a people that care. You have to have a farm to feed. You have to learn technology to innovate. And have to be able to be connected to educate. We need to be able to create, and this is what World of Akibaland does and is, and what's the plan. We need cyber centers all across the globe where you can walk in and you give me a kid at 5 and from 5 to 15, if God allows me to live this long, and if it be the Creator's will for me to produce this, where we're educating our kids not only in the academics of the land of what they need, but we're also educating them in the technology of their time. My son was gaming. Wow, he was gaming as a little. And of course, I didn't get a chance to raise him. I told him, you love gaming so much. If by 15 you're not a coder and creating games, you're behind the eight ball. I left high school with my games. When we're doing COBOL, that tells you my age. We're doing COBOL programming line for line where you didn't have a checker, a code check. And so if there was one line of code wrong out of 3, 4, 500, $700 strands, 700 strands, you had to go and read every line independently and see which one you was wrong. The little print dot matrix printers, and you got to go line for line, and you marking and trying to go back and redoing it, finding the line to read. Man, please, that's work. But I had games on the server. I remember I went back 5 years after that, and they were still playing my games. If you found it on the server, I hid it, but I guess I didn't hide it well enough because they found it. you know. But that's what it is. You have countries fighting now, changing the paradigm of who they are. Barbados said, no, we're not going to be under you no more. Bye-bye to the Queen of England and her rule over them. They want to now be self-defined. That is walking in God's spirit. Rise of the African. Come on. Everywhere. We have another location. And this is, and if you did not, and if this is the first time you're hearing about this, that means you need to tune in to AfriStream, because this is not the first time I talked about Barbados. And when you see this other information coming up behind me, understand you need to tune in to the African, because I'm bringing you news the way you ain't never seen it before, right? What does it look like to walk in God's spirit, to see an African rise, an African spirit, the God spirit? And we talk about African, why it's the rise of the African, because if you made it to African history class, you know that all life came out of Africa. We are the parents of humanity. We are the parent race of humanity. And so now the world is being run by our immature kids who don't want to give respect to the parents that birthed them. Whoa. And all the technology that they're using. Whoa, how does that happen? And so the only way to reseat that is to find that African spirit and walk in it. And so we're going to take a look at Ghana. Ghana will no longer export coca to Switzerland. Switzerland is the leading country for the selling of chocolate, a $10 billion industry. And a couple of years ago, the brother said, we're no longer doing this. What would Ghana look like if Ghana produced the world's chocolate like Switzerland? Because Switzerland is not, they got over 53, 55 to 57% of the cocoa bean that Switzerland gets comes from Ghana. So Ghana says, no, we're not giving you that 50%, that 50 plus percent of raw resources. What you can do now is you can buy chocolate from Ghana. We can produce, we can create the manufacturers, the jobs, and everything, and the product, and sell it to you. That'll be our export. We will sell chocolate across the world. The same way, we had Haiti giving up sugar. Haiti was one of the richest nations on the planet. This is why they rose up. They're like, hold up, man. You got us enslaved and you getting rich off this sugar. We done with you. And pushed France out. And they punished Haiti for the rest of Haiti's life. And the only people who can save Haiti is us, the rise of the African. Right. Ghana's calling on all people to come and stand with Ghana. Because they said we're done with having that separation of that melanation. We want a melanated nation that is global. If you're ready to come home, come home. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. It is about the rise of the African as we take a look at Rwanda, the Singapore of Africa. What? They're taking looks at identities of other countries and said, we can have commerce the same way you have commerce. We can have the labor you need to build everything out of China, made in China, made in China, made in China. He's going to say made in Rwanda, made in Rwanda, made in Rwanda. Why? Because we have the resources here. So let us sell you our resources. And we can do it for you and put you out, made in Rwanda, and then give it to you as a product for you to sell. All trade is coming through Rwanda. Why? Because if another country can do it and see themselves in God in that way, why can't we? Rise of the African. Now, if this is going on over throughout the globe, what spirit are these people walking in if it's not God's spirit? We here over in America who love what we built. Woo! Woo! This ain't even on the chart. I'm about to go off the page. Quadcentennial passed 400 years exactly on this earth, and we realized we don't want to walk off the continent. We don't want to leave the country. We just want to rule the country we built. What? We want to be in charge of the country that was created from our blood, sweat, and tears. You want to say this is a melting pot, then let this chocolate flavor melt all over this country. Why can we not be a people that walk in the Spirit of God? We have the ability to create a whole school system across the country. We have the economics for this. We have the economics to create hospitals, a franchise of black hospitals with black doctors across the countries. Engineering companies. Wait a minute. Was it Ghana who kicked out all of Chinese? Yes. Ghana's making moves. They kicked out all the Chinese engineers because he said this is not to a Ghanaian standards. This is not up to our standard. And we don't need you if you're going to give us second class work. Why? Because we are first class Africans who see ourselves in God as superior to anything. We are equal to every man that was created in the sight of God. And so why should we not produce from our own hand? What? That's what it looks like when you are in the Spirit of God. And how we not, as being here in America, we're more. The only thing we got to worry about is the popo. Well, we got to worry about a whole bunch. We got to worry about systematic oppression. But in here, we get to be able to build a nation within a nation. Y'all better see who Jeramoja Baby Ajim and Reverend Albert B. Cleage is. You better take a look at what the Shrine of Black McDonald been talking about for the last 68 years and how much we've accomplished to this time. What? I couldn't be here, literally. I couldn't be here if I wasn't taught let me flip him back because I got to show him by our master teacher, Reverend Albert B. Cleave, Jeramoja Baby Ajim. We moving. This is who we are. And so he's always said, can you imagine what I'm sitting there saying, what would life look like? The rise of the African, what it would look like if every black child saw themselves in the sight of God according to their faith. Wow. Now we talking. According to their faith. Because you got churches on every corner, but we not coming out of that church knowing who and who we are in God's eyes. We are still dealing with an oppressive mindset because we're still learning spirituality from our oppressor. Now we got access to more information. That's why I said we have to be able to understand how to use technology for the sake of guerrilla warfare. What are we teaching ourselves? What are we putting in ourselves? What are we doing? Man, this is woo. I wish my man Kalonji was here. Kalonji, man, you woo, brother. Let's eat this up. I would Cardinal Swire, where you at? Tamani, where you at? Walamola Tunji, I'm calling on you. And when I call these, when I call on the elders who said, brother, we ready, I'm gonna get them up here and they can try to be calm if they want to. I'm gonna set them loose. When you have a black person who has dealt with living in the sight of God according to what God calls them, living their entire life to the liberation of black people, because there's nothing more sacred to them. And I got a bunch of 65 and older people who are full of fire, ready to push and move in terms of program building. And that's important. We have the program. I'm never going to tell you we don't. We got, like everything else, might have some issues, but we got a program and we've been living it. It birthed me. The African, how I see myself, right? That's important. And so when you got Rwanda doing it, you got Ghana doing it, Zimbabwe doing it, you got, man, come on. Why can't we here start it? Be a part of it. Not start it, but be a part of it. Again, the African Speaks is only a small piece of a greater puzzle. And now we're trying to, it is a movement to be a social media Pan-African experience. Let's go. Let's go. Go to the African Speaks and your membership. Join. And let me show you what the program is and what it looked like, how to donate and how to build, and tell us how you can help. Let's get your skill set put together. I'm trying to get the Akibaland alumni up here to speak on their movements because we're building institutional power. And it's time for us to create a global experience. That's what this movement is about. Now, the ultimate part, what does it look like when a people walks in God's spirit other than a slave revolt? We saw the video last week. We saw the replay of it. What does it look like? Because it's not always violent. We will protect ourselves if necessary. But it's not a violent movement. It's a movement of love. It's a movement of peace. A movement of wisdom and understanding. It's a different movement. A movement of self-respect. A movement of self-respect. It's a movement of reverence for what God created you to be. That's what it is. And so this bigger effort, I don't know if y'all heard about this. Wakanda 1, City of Return Expo, December. And it was a lot, it's too much for me to go to the expo. Yeah, it happened too fast in the middle of COVID for me to go. I would have loved to go. December 2nd. That's like in a couple of days through the 13th. I would have loved to go. And if they have another one, I'm going. Ghana has put together a $500 billion project to build a city for those who want to come home and build. That's when you get sick and tired of being colonized in your mind. That's when you get sick of being colonized in your body and in your spirit. That's when you're tired and you need to say, I don't want anybody knee on my neck. It's time for me and all people like me to stand up and live as God intended. That's what it looks like. Yeah. That's beautiful. And so when we talk about What does your faith say to you? Mm. In this season, and we call it the holy season. And I tell all the kids, I want y'all to wake up on Christmas morning understanding who God called you to be. We understand what they said about Jesus. But what did he say about you when he wrote your name in the books? What did God say about you? Does your faith call you to build? Because if it doesn't, it's not of God. I don't know. Let me take you back to your history book you call the Bible. Nothing was about assimilation. Because assimilating into a foreign country or a foreign lifestyle, it is not divine. So check your faith and let the African in you rise. Because it's not living disconnected from your culture or your heritage or your sense of spirituality and your connection to each other or the covenant that you have as a people. Check your faith and let the African in you rise. Having someone rewrite your history is not a divine place to be. Does your faith tell you to put up with that? Check your faith. Living disjointed as a people, fragmented as communities, broken families, there's no honor there. Check your faith and what your faith is teaching you and telling you. When you saw those Africans stand and become one and moved as one to conquer the revolt, when you look at history and see how we moved as one, there's a spirit there that leads towards liberation. That's when you know you're walking with God. If you sitting down and you're comfortable with the miseducation of our youth, where they're not being taught who and whose they are by the church or by any institution, educational institution that you send them to, check your faith. Because your faith shouldn't have you be able to accept it. You should be building against it. My mother used to tell me, she said, I worry about you, baby, before she passed. She said, I'm worried about you, baby. Why, Ma? And I was young, in my early 20s. She said, because you don't conform. I said, what? She said, baby, you don't conform. I said, Mom, I haven't seen anything in this world that leads me to conform to anything. I'm always going to be defiant until I figure out who I'm supposed to be and where I'm supposed to go. I said, and she told me, she said, well, I'm worried about you. And she said, if you ever need me after I cross over, call me, I'm coming back. I'll come there. And my mother was not she didn't, I can tell you that she wasn't versed in African spirituality, but she understood that she would be an ancestor. My family says we have a veil. I could see spirits. I can talk to them. I make changes happen. I can sense things. Always, it's my entire life. I got stories, and we're gonna have to. I'll do one of those stories later. I got stories, and she saw it, and for that, I said, "Nah, Ma, I'm not. I got a feeling about this, and I can't give into it." But she said she would come back, and then I remember the days when she was like, "Why don't we talk more?" I said, "Because we don't see eye to eye." And I said, "I'm not worried about that anyway." She said, "Why not?" I said, "Because you already promised me that if you transition and we don't make up, we don't become closer. Anytime I call you, you coming." And I was like, when she told me that, look at this. I was 19 when she told me that. And it was years that went by. And I understood even now. Oh, we speak. And Mom goes to work on my behalf. Y'all heard Marcus Garvey. If you ever need me, you will find me in the whirlwinds. And I'm coming with hundreds of Africans, African liberators to fight by your side. What does it mean to be in the spirit of God? It makes you the liberator. It will bring about the rise of the African. Economic independence with no program. They say no finance, uh, romance without no finance is a damn nuisance. So is living in this country. Finance without a program is slavery. Teaching your kids how to make money but not how to build their own nation is nothing but creating a well-off, rich slave. Why? Because you can't be free if your people not free. We know how this works. Read the history book that you call the Bible. Love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and your brother as thyself. How you gonna sit down and live in abundance while your brothers are hungry and you? It ain't nothing wrong with you getting that money. It's something wrong with you keeping it to yourself and not building up something for your people to step off of. Let there be a rise of the African in you. Find that God spirit. This is a good season for it. There's a lot of love going around. A lot of love going around. And all you sit down and drop in and pray, say, God, I need the love that allows me to see myself and my brothers and sisters as you called us to see ourselves. Let the African in you rise. That's where it happens. Seek the Creator. And in the Creator, you have to see yourself as a people who deserves. Deserves what? When you seek the Creator, seek the wisdom of the Creator and ask Him, can I see us? Allow me to see the people you connected me to as being deserving of every other race that walks this earth. In our DNA, there are multiple forms of mutations in the African DNA, where we are the parent race. Everybody come from us. How is it that they get to live their freedoms, but we can't? And we got to be colonized by our children. Why? Because they are fearful of the power we walk in. Not the fact that we will retaliate. Our love for each other and God build nations way beyond their understanding. We are nation builders by design. And we do it to share, to grow, to give God honor. Not saying it wasn't all peaches and cream, but there was some violence. That's in everything, in every journey. But we saying in this day and time, unless we were not bothered, there should be none. Don't start none, there won't be none. Nation of Islam came up with the FOI. Shrines of the Black Madonna, we come up with the Maccabees. Y'all read the Apocrypha. Maccabees were fierce. We celebrate Hanukkah. Why? Because it's the nation of Israel's battle against Rome. Y'all better look at it. The white boy Jews, the European Jews, yeah, they understood. We need to hold on to this. And they're not knocking anything. They may not have been the original Jews, but they are our children. And they embrace the spirituality and they stay a people. You can't fault them for being a people. You can only fault them for keeping us down. That's it. Other than that, nah, they understand liberation and they believe in it. Why? Because they walk in God power. We should be able to be liberated within ourselves. What does it look like when you're walking in God power? You have to understand that we have an agreement with God. That's why we were first here. In the history book you call the Bible, they call it a covenant promise. Rise of the African. We're sacred to the earth. We're sacred to the Creator. We're sacred in all ways around. Let this be the rise of the African. Calling on our ancestors. And those are those in our bloodline and those in our spiritual bloodline. I remember where Mandela was being questioned of his relationship to Gaddafi, and he said, why are you with him? Any person who believes in the liberation of South Africa is a friend of mine. Don't let us you don't get to tell me who my friend and who my friends are and aren't, which is the issue of Haiti. America's still puppeteering the government there. We got to get that out. The only way we can help them, we unify. The only way that happens with the rise of the African. Our common goal. There is nothing more sacred than the liberation of black people, the world over. Y'all stay tuned because there are movements in the continent of Africa that will blow your mind. And we over here need to be aware of it. We do not want to be not a part of this fight. And we could actually help spearhead it with the technology because we have some things they don't. But with Ghana coming up with $500 billion around the world to come up with this comeback city, they're going to have some things we don't. I would love to see a World of Akiba Land Youth Center in Ghana, in Zimbabwe, in Kenya. We have churches in Liberia. I would love to see it in Kingston, Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, Australia, England, Canada, all across the country, all across the world, where we have a Pan African movement where we are raising each other's kids, educating each other's kids, keeping each other healthy, keeping each other employed. Because you can't build a nation without finance. That's what we have. Even over here, we have more access to information, but we also have access to more finances than we've ever had as a people. How do people get rich and don't fight for liberation? Easy. There's no experience of God in their life. None. No farms being made, no hospitals being built. You know, you have the NBA stars who play in the NBA, make that money, then go home and build hospitals for their people. It's because God was in them. You have some basketball players building charter schools, making sure kids get to school and get an education. Hopefully, the curriculum in there is training them to be liberators. The rise of the African. We can do it in so many ways, you guys. The question is, are you going to allow yourself to surrender to that which is greater and see yourself in the eyes of the Creator so you can experience the rise of the African in you? Yeah. On that note, I can say one love. Wait. And good night.